Hey there, gifted youngsters. This is Uncanny, the mutant musings of Matt and Siz. It's the show where we discuss Marvel's Uncanny X-Men comic issue by issue, from 1975's giant-size X-Men #1 all the way to the present day. My name is Matt. I write and draw a superhero comedy comic called Steamroller Man, which you can read online for free at steamrollerman.com. And this is my co-host Siz, publisher, promoter, and founder of Comics Studios Australia. You can find everything comics at comics.net.au. That's comex.net.au. Hello, Siz.
Hello, Matt.
This is a big one. This is
another big one. We did an awesome one last week. Now here's the next awesome one.
Yes.
I'm very excited to go over this one as well, although it goes to some big space craziness.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're really
a lot
showing
of cosmic
something.
stuff.
Cosmic scales. Yes, that's what I was looking
Absolutely.
for. But yes, I'll get the team done. This one's called Armageddon Now. So not later, Armageddon Now. So I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yes.
Issue 108, December 77. So this is the last one for 77. I don't know how close we are to monthly yet, but it's still every 2 months, the issues.
I think it actually goes monthly at issue 112. So we're a few out from being monthly. Yeah.
Ooh. It must pick up its, popularity. Come on, with these awesomeness being put out, its popularity is going through the roof.
Yeah, no doubt.
So we got Chris Claremont at the helm, John Byrne. Woo! I recognized his art straight away without looking up his name, because I remember when he was the artist for Alpha Flight.
Yeah.
There's a scene with Cyclops, and he looks like he's taken it straight from Alpha Flight's Guardian.
Yeah.
Guardian. Yeah. So, and giving him goggles. Anyway, Terry Austin does the inks. Letters done by 2 people. They don't give their names properly in here. So
I think it's Tom Orzechowski is one of them.
Yeah, and then
Oz, that's Tom Orzechowski, who we've spoken about on the show before. Yeah. But Wall, I'm not sure who that, because that name doesn't ring a bell to me.
Oh, it does to me. I remember writing that name down. So it's definitely a surname, but I can't remember the first name. I should have looked it up, but I got lazy. I got distracted. I got something. But, don't stop there. Andy Enches for the colours. And, of course, we've still got Archie Goodwin doing the editor.
Archie Goodwin. Yeah. So before we start going into it, I just want to point out I'm wearing this shirt today because it has the John Byrne X-Men corner box on it. So I thought this was a fitting shirt to wear since we're discussing the first issue. This is John Byrne's first issue, and the Byrne-Claremont era of the X-Men is considered like the pinnacle of X-Men comics. This is where it really hits its stride. So many pivotal storylines in X-Men history happened during the run of these 2 creators. Got to mention also Terry Austin. Terry Austin as the inker on John Byrne. This is the first time we've seen Terry Austin on the X-Men, as far as I know, at least in the issues we've been reading for the show.
Yeah.
This is Terry Austin's first appearance. And he's an integral part of this team as well, because his inking style on John Byrne, Terry Austin just has this really clean, slick look to his inks, and it brings out the best in John Byrne's pencils, I think. I don't think there's very many inkers who have worked with John Byrne who work as well with John Byrne's pencils as Terry Austin does. And I also want to say I have a surprise for you. I was at the comic shop, and look what I found.
No way!
Yeah, they had this
so I
one.
can see what I'm excited about.
So this is issue 108.
It's not
And
like
you can
a
see,
repeat or a reprint or anything, or is it the real thing?
no, it's the original one. It was
Oh,
only
awesome!
$20, but because I saw it was $18.99 at my comic shop, and it's so I'll just give you, if we go to the first page, I just want to show like the difference between the, like if you go to the first page of that and then you look at the newsprint version, right? So one thing I do appreciate with the Marvel Unlimited app, as much as I do love like comics on newsprint for the nostalgia value, the artwork, especially the fine lines and details on some of these drawings, like I was comparing the two, and you just don't get the level of detail on the newsprint because the newsprint soaks up the ink and the ink spreads. So you kind of lose the white space between those fine ink lines, and they kind of just merge into one. So there is a value, I think, to the digital presentation of these, but it was also really cool to kind of just,
See
like
how
you can smell the newsprint. I love the smell of old comic books. That's something I've always loved. So it was pretty fun to read the original issue of this one.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm jealous.
It was total happenstance that I happened to just see, because my comic shop hangs like all their, like the more kind of older, valuable issues, or like the key issues up on the wall. And so I saw it like high on the wall, and I asked my comic shop guy, like, oh, would it be too much trouble to get that down? And so he got the ladder out and he climbed up and he pulled it down, because I knew we were doing this one this week. And so I was like, oh, that's perfect timing. So yeah, just wanted to share that with you.
So awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
I'm jealous. Very
cool.
jealous. Extremely jealous. But I'm jealous about a lot of X-Men issues, so we won't go into that. Very sad days. So I'm just talking about the time.
We're going to talk X-Men. That'll cheer you up.
We're going to talk X-Men, so that's all great. Woo! I love these plants, by the way. How they're circles with circles coming out of circles. But yeah, the crystal's getting crazy now.
Yep.
It's Armageddon as we know it. And have they experienced the blink at this stage? I don't think they have.
I think it just did. I think what we're seeing here is the actual blink with these beams. Okay. Like, this is what's happening on their end of things. There's all these beams starting to shoot out of the crystal, and that's what's causing the blink. Yeah. So I think that's what's happening here. So we've wound back like a few seconds in time from the end of the previous issue. Mm-hmm. It's amazing to compare John Byrne and Terry Austin's artwork to Dave Cockrum and Dan Green's artwork from the previous issue, because it's all the same characters in the same location, but everything here looks so much like crisper and cleaner, and I don't know, it's everything. It literally looks like the image is more focused in terms of like a camera.
Yeah,
like if you turn the focus on the camera to get like ultra clear focus, that's what it sort of feels like to me, is a more focused image. And I think a lot of that is due to Terry Austin's inks.
Yeah, it'd have to be.
Yeah, so it looks awesome. I just love the way this whole comic looked fantastic to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome stuff.
And this is a page where I hadn't looked at the credits. I just went straight into reading. Hang on. I know this artist.
Oh, so this was where you recognized the style of John
This is
Byrne.
where I recognized the style. It wasn't the previous page. It was the first panel and the third panel that just, hang on, I know this guy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that John Byrne has one of the most distinctive styles in comics. That's why he became, largely as a result of his work on the X-Men, became like the number one guy in the industry. You know, he was like the most popular comic artist in the US comic industry for years and years as a result of, you know, starting with this title. And then he went on to start, I think, Alpha Flight, and then he did Fantastic Four after he came off X-Men. Yeah, yeah. And then he moved from Marvel after Fantastic Four. He did the Man of Steel miniseries, and then the Superman title, which was a personal favorite of mine. I love that Superman title. That was where I first became aware of John Byrne, and you know, had that sort of moment you just described where you were like, oh, hang on, this is that guy. The artwork on the, you know, the guy drawing this Superman comic, this is that guy I like. But I'd never really, before that, I hadn't really paid attention to, like, oh, there's artists that move from comic to comic, and this is that artist I like. And then you look at the name and it's like, John Byrne. Okay, I'm going to seek out everything else he's done.
See, I was shocking at that when I was younger. I didn't know names. I didn't have a clue. I was just like, that guy.
Yeah.
That guy. Which, for all I knew, it was women. And I'm going, that guy.
Right, right.
I know that guy's art. I know that guy's art. I know that guy's art. Which half the time it was that team's art, which I didn't realize.
Right. Yes.
Because you whack him with a different inker, it didn't look quite the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, like, when after you've been reading comics for a while, you do really notice the difference that an inker makes on the same penciler's work, and it really does have a different look. And that's, you know, like, going back to what I was saying before about Terry Austin's inks on John Byrne. It's just like, doesn't get better than Terry Austin. I think Terry Austin's like one of my favorite comic book inkers of all time.
I can see why.
Yeah, it's just amazing detail and finesse. Just great stuff. This page has a recap, literally in the space of half a page. Again, like, this goes back to something we were talking about last episode, is the economy in which Claremont does these recaps. This is 4 panels, half a page, and the vertical panels that it's using on the bottom of the page allow John Byrne to get 4 panels across the page by using these thinner vertical panels. And it basically recaps everything that happened in the previous issue in 4 panels, so that it really does catch the reader up, and you don't have to have read the last issue to really know.
Where
like,
you're at.
Okay, this is what just happened. And comics just don't really seem to do that much anymore.
No, I've noticed that as well, that they had that real philosophy of every comic is someone's first comic.
Right.
Back in those days. So you could jump on and you just have to get up to this part and find out, oh, that's what's going on. Okay, cool, let's keep reading.
Yeah, exactly.
And that looks awesome. I'm going to go back and get the back issues. I want to see the full story.
That's right. Exactly. So yeah, did you have anything else to say on this page? Because that was all I wanted to note, was just that economy of the flashback.
How I spotted that it was John. And probably John and Terry, if they were the same team on Alpha Flight. I'm guessing so, because it really,
I think you might be right.
Reminds me of that. Because Alpha Flight's where I found him.
Nice.
So that's what I remember, and it's just like, wow, he did the X-Men. But yeah, so cool.
Very cool.
Go to the next one.
Okay. So page 3. So now we're back with Peter Corbeau. So this is kind of cool. This is John Byrne's first issue, and not only is he getting to draw the X-Men and the Starjammers, but he's also getting to draw the Fantastic Four and the Avengers.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because it sort of allows him to show his artistic skills and like, yeah, I can draw them and I can draw those guys.
Yeah.
No problem.
What, dude on fire? Not a problem. I love that he's on fire in the thing, talking to someone on the thing.
He's just standing there on fire. It's like, can you turn it down a bit? It's kind of hot.
That's what I noticed. I was like, phone's ringing, flame on.
That's hilarious. That's funny.
But this is a cool page. But the second last panel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll get in touch with you, Doctor. No, thank you, Doctor. We'll keep in touch. But universe is ending. Yeah. He's like, yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Right. Yeah, we'll get back to you. Thanks for the warning.
Thanks for that. Thanks for the warning. Yep, no problem. I got to go be with my family. End of the universe.
Funny.
See you later. The other thing that really stuck out to me is a me thing, not the actual page thing. Mm-hmm. Is Wasp and... Is he called Yellow Jacket back then? Yeah, I think he is.
At this point, yeah, Yellow Jacket. This is Hank Pym, who started off as Ant-Man, and he went through a number of different superhero identities. He was Ant-Man, then he was Giant Man, then he became Yellow Jacket. So this is at this point he was Yellow Jacket
when he was in it.
What's that?
I didn't read a lot of Avengers when he was in it.
Me neither.
But I read the Ultimates where him and Jane are in it. So I couldn't get that image out of my head that he was like, that he abused her and beat her up and did all these horrible things to her. I'm like, why is she cuddling up to him? And it's like, oh, different universe. So that was really hard for me to get past. So that's just a me thing.
Do you know the story behind the abusive relationship storyline and how that came to be?
No.
So in Avengers, around this is obviously pre the slap. Like it's known as, like, it's this big thing in Avengers history where Hank Pym, like, he backhands Jan. And what happened was the writer, I think the writer was Jim Shooter, but I'm not sure, of the Avengers at the time. The writer wrote that they're having an argument, and the writer just sort of said, like, Hank kind of, pushes her away, like, look, just get away from me. It was supposed to be just a gentle sort of like him moving away from her like that. But in true Marvel fashion, like in true How to Draw Comics the Marvel way fashion, the artist went over the top and actually had him do this huge, like, big arcing swing at her that sort of knocked her off her feet. And, the artist trying to make it look more dynamic, which was totally not the story point. But by the time the art was done, it was too late, to change that whole story point. And so they just went with it, and it became part of the sort of mythology of the Avengers, was that, Hank Pym's a wife beater. And so it kind of ruined that character for the rest of time, because then that's what the Ultimates was riffing on.
It really
was that pivotal thing. And so then Mark Miller, when he was writing the Ultimates, he turned that up even more of a notch.
To 11.
And really kind of leaned into that.
Wow. I had no idea.
And it was all based on a misinterpretation of the script by the artist of that issue.
Wow.
So that's the story behind the story for that.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
See, not just X-Men here, people. We're learning all about everything to do with Marvel. But yeah, we've. That's all I've got to say about this page, actually. So, is there anything?
No, we can go. We can go to the next one
Because that really threw me.
Couple of things on this next page that I really liked.
I love this one.
I love the little guy called Jaff or Jaff. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. But he's this little kind of impish character who's sitting on top of the housing of the McCran crystal, and he's one of the guardians of the crystal. Like he's here to keep people from getting inside this housing. And he is definitely stronger than he looks. Now, one thing that there's a few things I want to point out. Panel 2 in the background, we've got this this effect in the background that looks kind of like Kirby Crackle, but it looks a bit more roughly drawn. Now that became like a John Byrne signature stylistic way that he would draw, like his version of Kirby Crackle, which, the way Jack Kirby drew it was always more solidly, solid ink blots kind of thing. And then John Byrne does more of a sketchier look. And then Terry Austin retained that sketchy look in his line work rather than turning it into solid black. He retained the sketchy look. If you find John Byrne's pencils online, just the raw pencil artwork, you can often see that, he's doing that with the edge of his pencil to get that effect. It's probably just like an artistic shorthand that he does to just get it done quickly, But then Terry Austin kind of takes that and kind of puts it into literal form in the inks, which I thought was really fascinating. And then the other thing I love about this is on panel in the second tier of panels on the page, like the middle tier of panels, you've got this great device where Jaff he punches Wolverine, but we don't see the actual punch.
No.
Which I thought was a really interesting way to depict it. Like, you see the wind up where he's got his fist back, and then you just have this panel where it's a full panel sound effect where it just says pow. Yeah. And then the final panel on the page just shows this arc. Yeah. This arc of motion going out into space.
That's crazy. Out into space.
That's Wolverine.
I love the organic humanoid form.
Yeah. So I thought that was, it's almost like a cartoon-like way of doing that story point, like an animated cartoon, where they kind of, you cut to a big wide shot and you just see, this tiny little thing going.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So I love that.
The design of the spacecraft as well in this picture.
Yeah, I didn't notice that before.
It's very smooth, cool. And even though it's got lines and stuff, it's very, and it's just a touch Phoenix.
Yeah, it is. That's the Starjammer's spaceship in orbit, and so Corsair is radioing the guy on the ship saying, like, "Oh, can you go pick up Wolverine? Can you catch that guy before he goes out into space? He's one of ours."
Yeah. Well, the main thing I noticed on this page, Wolverine's in someone else's costume, but he's still got his claw things. So I found that interesting.
Oh, on the back of his glove. Good point.
Well, unless the other dude has claws that come out of his hands. That makes no sense.
You are correct about that.
Or he got the other costume and put him on while he was waiting to go back into battle. Right. Sewed him on.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. They shouldn't. Yeah, that's weird. Because the other guy, he had actual claws coming out of the ends of his fingers.
Of his fingers, yeah.
More like a werewolf type thing,
Yeah, that's the impression I got.
So there wouldn't be any reason.
I gotta say.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, as we were saying last episode, awesome Wolverine variant costume.
And I wonder if it was people reading this and saying, that's so cool on him, that made them go the brown suit route.
Yeah, it could be entirely possible. It is a great look.
Yeah, it is. And the bright colors never really suited Wolverine in my mind, and I'm going to get so much flack for that in the comments because people love that suit. But I'm a huge fan of the brown and tan suit. Because that's what he wore when he was in the Outback. So
yes, yeah. That's true. That's true.
I'll go to the next page.
Yeah.
And then he's just hammering them, the little dude.
Yeah. So this whole page is battle. And yeah, this little Jaff guy is handing their butts to them.
Yeah, pretty much.
One thing I just like, this is such a well composed page artistically. In the first panel, the lines of the figures, you've got Wolverine, sorry, not Wolverine. We've been talking so much about Wolverine. Nightcrawler. You got Nightcrawler's head in the top left of the panel, and then you follow his form down his spine along his tail and his leg to Jaff in the middle of the panel. Jaff is actually holding onto his tail, so that forms a continuous line from one character to another. And then you've got the swish sort of effect of Jaff's punch, which then leads into Cyclops' eye beam.
Yep.
So it's still all one continuous line, and it's leading your eye around the panel. So you're going from Nightcrawler to Jaff to Cyclops, and then you go down Cyclops' body, which is overlapping Raza, and that takes you all the way to the end of the panel, and Raza's arm is kind of up on the edge of the panel, which kind of closes, that sort of is like a stop for your eye, which I just thought, like, that's leading the eye so well. And that's something that I really like to kind of try and dissect and study when I'm looking at comic book artists, especially because, I'm an artist myself and I'm drawing my own comic. So I try and get those kind of elements into my own comic, where leading the reader's eye is key in comics. Because,
I never
especially someone reading a comic for the first time may find it like, well, how do I read this? Like, what order do I go in and stuff? And if you can sort of arrange the elements in a way that you just sort of, you're literally leading the eye from here and saying, like, well, you look at this first and that's going to lead you over here. So just masterfully done. And John Byrne wasn't that far into his career at this point. I know he had been working for Marvel for a couple of years. Like, he had drawn Marvel Team Up, and he drew Power Man and Iron Fist for a bit before this.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think he only really started towards the beginning of the 70s. So he's probably only less than 10 years into his career at this point, and he's already so good. Like, really is. And so then at the bottom of this page, Phoenix is now back in the fight. She was sort of out of it, didn't have much to do last issue, but now she's kind of back and comes back in a major way because she pulls a meteor down, because Jaff is giving so much trouble to the rest of the X-Men. Like, they can't, and the Starjammers, they just can't sort of seem to make a dent in this guy.
Yeah.
And so Jean pulls a meteor down on top of him, which
I love that.
Like we were talking about last episode, like, she really is such a powerful character in the Marvel universe. Almost like there's no limit to her power. So someone who can, like, literally pull a meteor from space and pull it down to impact with the ground is super powerful.
Well, they show its movement. I don't know if you can see that. It's actually going a different direction, and then she pulls it down.
Oh yeah, you can see the little. It's like a bend.
Yeah, like a bend. Yeah, so it's speeding past, and she's like, "Yeah, I'll grab that."
That's great. Yeah, that looks great.
He's like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah, it doesn't have any effect.
This one confused me how it ends. And it's on this page that it ends.
Yes. Right.
And it's like, he just had a meteor dropped on him.
Mm-hmm.
He's had everyone blast him with their powers.
Yep.
And for some reason, that old sonic scream.
Right.
I don't get it.
So they work out that he's a robot because of something that Jaff actually says.
Oh, did I not read that properly?
Yeah, I think it's on the previous page he says something about like my circuits or something.
Yep, I must have missed and didn't put those two together.
Oh, he says something about his programming when they first start fighting. He says something about, my programming won't allow me to, let you guys past me, so you won't defeat me.
So basically, then, it's me not reading properly. Yeah.
Well, that's why
I must
we do
have
this
skimmed over those bits. I'm just going.
We help each other out. There's parts that I miss as well, and you fill me in. I was like, well, actually, they do explain that.
That totally makes sense now. Totally makes sense. I can see it now. I don't know why I read that and then didn't put it together. Or I just went straight to there and went, why did Scream hurt him?
But the one thing that I thought was curious about this page is they don't show the effect of Banshee's sonic scream on this creature. No, like they show it, like Banshee works out like, this is what we got to do, and then he does it. But then you go to the next page and there's not even like, you don't see like a dead body or like if he's a robot, like
circuitry everywhere.
He's exploded into circuitry. Exactly. You don't even see him anymore. So it's a bit weird. Like it almost has the feeling of like, is a page missing in here? But
it's not. I had that vibe too, but it's not.
Yeah. No. So yeah, it was a bit weird, a bit abrupt in terms of just keep moving, like move to the next story point or whatever. It felt like it needed just one panel of, like the smoking robot, the robot on the ground with like circuits and smoke coming out of him or whatever.
Yeah, even that panel, the first one, they could have stuck him down the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
Even that would have worked.
Yep. But yeah, on this page, the next Guardian comes up. And this guy is called Modt or Mod, or it's MODT. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah.
But the first guy was a tiny little robot, and now this is a massive giant robot. Also another cool design, I have to say.
Very.
And looks great. The metal texture that Austin and Byrne have like put on this robot, it all looks super shiny, very smooth and shiny for the metal.
Yeah,
which I thought was great.
Sorry, have you finished?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay,
carry on.
One thing I noticed about this creature has a real box feel, and by box I mean
box from Alpha Flight, right?
From Alpha Flight, he's got that real similar design to him, and I'm like, this is where he got it from. This is where he took it over to Alpha Flight from here.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that's just the vibe I got. Yeah.
Now that you mention it, it's total similarity.
So go to the next page. And they're still being hammered.
What a great looking page.
That's right. During the fight, he throws... I keep wanting to call him Ken.
Deken.
Deken.
Yeah, D''Ken.
Yeah. Into the thing, and I thought that was going to turn him into a big bad guy.
Mm-hmm. No,
And
it doesn't.
Wolverine and
Something quite strange happens after this page, but I just wanted to mention on this page, like, John Byrne's draftsmanship is just excellent. Like, very few poses or panels look bad. You know, his anatomy always looks solid and believable. But again, like, a lot of this stuff doesn't reproduce on the newsprint. You know, like, if I go to this page in the issue, yeah, I mean, it's kind of there, the actual real page. And so I was just saying, like, it makes me sort of appreciate the wonders of modern technology, because you can't see the level of, you know, those minute and intricate ink work lines are much more visible on the app.
Yeah, there's no way that would have come through on the newsprint. Some of the stuff I'm seeing here. Wow, that's really awesome.
Yeah. And so, yeah, they throw Raza, the Starjammer, throws Deken into the crystal, and then something strange starts to happen. There's a flash of blinding light.
Yep.
In the last panel, and then we go to the next panel, and they're in a completely different place.
And it all just gets a bit weird. I got a bit lost in this. It does get a bit weird.
It does get a bit weird. This, to me, so they get transported. It says in the narration, it says they're quote, somewhere else, and then they call it like a silent city. The air is stale with the dust of more years than man can count. So it's an ancient city, but it also looks like technologically new.
Very advanced.
And this, to me, I know I've said this on the show before, but again, like, this had an almost Lovecraftian feel. Like, H.P. Lovecraft always, you know, wrote in a number of stories about these ancient cities that were built by civilizations that there was, you know, that time had, it's so ancient, there's no record of it in human history, but somehow there's these structures. So this sort of felt very similar to that. It just had just a note of Lovecraftian feeling to me. Look at the beautiful face that John Byrne has drawn on Jean Grey in panel 2.
The
guy's just unparalleled in terms of, he just draws such good looking characters. Just great stuff. His art is just like, it's so appealing. It's just nice to look at, you know?
Yeah. I would say that's what got me into Alpha Flight. Just looking at the art, and then I went back and read it.
I don't know. I'd love to know, like, what John Byrne's influences, like his artistic influences were. Cool. Like, who was he looking at when he was learning to draw? You know, because I think every artist kind of starts off looking at their favorite art. Like, I looked at John Byrne's artwork when I was a kid and tried to draw like him. I'd love to know who he was looking at and who he was trying to draw like to end up doing artwork as good as this.
Yeah.
You know? It's great stuff. I love it.
Awesome.
So story-wise, we learned that they're now inside the crystal. In whatever sense that means, whether it's like the TARDIS, where, you know, like from Doctor Who, it's bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside. So once they're transported inside the crystal, it's actually like this vast city. But when they're outside, it doesn't really look much bigger than like a single, you know, house. But yeah, as you said, things get weird at this point.
Yeah, very weird. And I misinterpreted this scene on panel 2. I thought they all got Cyclops' powers.
Oh.
Even after reading that, I still went, why they all got I-beams? And it's like, no, it's coming out of the ball into their heads.
I think it's because of the coloring. Like if those beams had been colored white, the same as, because there's this white field around all the characters to separate them from the darkness. And if the beam itself had also been white, it would look like, I think it would look more like the beams were coming from the crystal and covering their whole bodies in energy. Whereas having it colored red, it does look like Cyclops' eye beams, because that's the first thing you're going to think of. And of course, with that, you think, oh yeah, it's coming from all of their heads, going to the crystal rather than coming from the crystal into their minds, which is what is actually happening. It's
well, as soon as you go down a panel,
once you continue reading, you realize, it's doing this kind of mind, hallucination cool thing to all of them.
Especially Nightcrawler's one. His little sequence is really cool.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to say was, I know I'm like the John Byrne cheer squad here, but
yep.
Look how he's drawn the sort of nightmare versions of Wolverine and Cyclops in a sort of more exaggerated, cartoony style. And even that looks good. Like he's an artist who can sort of vary his style, even though he's most known for this, his sort of typical superhero style. He can do really cartoony stuff and a more because this looked more like animated cartoon.
Yeah, it does a bit,
like Looney Tunes versions of Wolverine and Cyclops. And he can do that equally as well. So just another feather in John Byrne's cap, I think, of stuff that he can do. Cool. Great stuff. And then, on the next page, we see Phoenix's vision, which has like a skeletal version of her in her Marvel Girl costume. And it also has that two-tone effect that you've admired on the Dave Cockrum issues. They're bringing that back in, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I love it.
And so story-wise, she is having a vision. What did I write down here? Oh, yeah, so panel 5 I thought was interesting because Cyclops, so Jean kind of explains that by controlling the minds of all the characters and making them sort of preoccupied, it means they're not going to use their powers. But for Cyclops, he's in a constant state of keeping his powers turned off rather than turned on. So when it takes that ability away from Cyclops, his eye beams are no longer held in, and so he zaps her, but it goes straight through her. Like she goes incorporeal. But she does say something curious on panel 5. She says the beam, it should have cut me in two. Yeah. Which again, it goes back to this endless debate we're always having about Cyclops' powers, whereas it's not heat, it's concussive force. So it wouldn't have cut her in two, it would have knocked her back somehow. But it does sound dramatic. It sounds more dramatic to say it would have cut me in two, but still,
it's better than would have thrown me back.
Exactly. It sounds better. It sounds better than that. It would have thrown me back. But
a concussive force narrowed down, hitting something would cut it.
I guess you're right. like a
If it's
water
strong
blast.
enough. If it's strong enough. Yeah, like water blasting.
Yes, that's
That's
true.
a good example. I like that. I'm going to remember that. Water blasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No problem. We solved it. It's all good.
But
It's
yeah,
not an
we'll just
issue.
still go straight through her. So yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah,
it's
that's
not the
actually
case here,
interesting.
but I still find it funny. It's like, close your eyes.
Right.
You keep doing this. Your blasts keep getting out of control, and all you have to do is close your eyes.
Yeah,
But of
that
course,
is
it makes sense that he's
interesting.
not here. I mean, here
That
it
is
makes sense.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that he, like with the whole mind control thing that the crystal's doing to them, their minds are apparently more relaxed, but so relaxation doesn't prompt Cyclops to just close his eyes.
Apparently not.
I don't know. We're thinking about it too hard. We're thinking about it too much.
We're thinking about it too hard. I'm looking down at Colossus down the bottom, and his eyes seem to be open, so it
Good
must
point.
be a different kind of mind control.
Yeah, good point.
Okay,
I
we won't
also
get
like
too deep
that.
into this.
I also like that in the background of the final panel, you see Banshee gripping his throat, which I think is, even though we don't see Banshee's actual vision, you totally get what his vision is about, which is not, losing his voice and not being able to use his power.
Use his powers, yeah.
Which I thought was very, very interesting. So what's happening here is Jean starts communicating with this orb. So when they first came into this crystal and they're in the city, you see this big yellow orb kind of in the center of that image. And this is kind of like the source of the McCran crystal's power. And Jean starts communicating with the sphere. And now what's happened is Cyclops' eye beam hit the sphere and cracked it like an egg. And then Jean senses there's something inside that which is trying to hatch out now that there's cracks in it. And so what's happening on this, it gets a bit abstract. Like the whole story point here gets very abstract and kind of like weird fantasy sci-fi, like, woo-woo
it's cool
type.
though, but it's like,
yeah, it's all a bit heady in terms of the concept. So now she uses her Phoenix power to communicate with whatever is inside the orb, and she then realizes what is in there is a neutron galaxy, whatever that is.
I love that.
And she's goes on to say, like, there's such power here, and it's bound within this geodesic lattice work of anti-energy. So talk about your sci-fi technobabble, like gobbledygook.
So glad you said that, not me. That's all I'm saying.
So basically, it's like a net that holds the power of this neutron galaxy together, but the net is fraying now because of Cyclops's eye blast. And so if the power of the neutron galaxy is allowed to escape, it's going to explode. And she goes on to say it's dying. So like a black hole, when a black hole is formed by a star collapsing, this would be a whole galaxy collapsing, which would create basically some kind of thing worse than a black hole that would suck the whole universe into it, which the explanation continues onto the next page. John Byrne is getting to draw a lot of like cosmic stuff.
Yeah, some really cool stuff
on these couple of pages. It's really sort of interesting when, like if you think about the challenge of being presented with a script saying like, here's what I'm trying to explain. Can you come up with images to kind of explain this incredibly esoteric made up concept that is all about like galaxies collapsing and energy kind of being sucked into a single point, but then exploding again. Pretty crazy stuff, but I think he does a pretty good job, especially on this page. I really liked panels 3 and 4, which are kind of like mirror images of each other, but one's a positive image and one's a negative image. Like the black and white is reversed on either side, and I thought that was really a clever way to illustrate that it's the death of one universe and the birth of another universe from the same event. Really clever.
I like that, actually, because that's one of the theories of the Big Bang.
Yeah,
I thought it was a recent
exactly.
theory. I thought that was a recent theory, so I find it really cool that they've touched on it before it was a theory.
They just got the theory from X-Men.
Yeah, that's all it is.
those scientists, they must have read X-Men comics. And then they were like, hang on, this is it.
This is
what we need. This explains everything.
We just got to fit the Phoenix in there somehow.
Exactly. So then the Phoenix's role in all this is she's trying to stop the explosion or the implosion from happening with her power. But if you go to the next page, sorry, did you want to say anything else about this?
No,
page?
I had nothing on that one.
Okay. So if we go to this page now she's explaining like she's not powerful enough, even with all this Phoenix's powers. She doesn't have all the power that she needs. And so then Storm kind of breaks out of her trance, I guess, and says to Jean, like, well, I'll help you. Like, I'll connect you can draw on my life force. Yeah. And I thought it was interesting here that on panel 3, Phoenix goes, yes, which kind of sounds a bit evil. So to me, that was sort of like, oh, that's the dark Phoenix coming out a little bit. And then she pulls it back and says, no, Storm, you don't know what you're saying. Like I'd be pulling from your life force, which could kill you. And then Storm, makes the noble sacrifice and says, it's my life to give, friend. And again, what a fantastic drawing of Storm's face.
Oh, yeah, isn't it awesome?
Panel 4.
Yeah.
Just, again, like...
Wow.
So simple and clean. Just a beautiful drawing of Storm. But then it's still not enough. Like, even with Storm's life force and Phoenix, still not enough. So she reaches out to Corsair, and here's like the big not the big cliffhanger, but the big bombshell of this issue. She says, Major Summers, please, there's no more time. And so I was like, Major Summers? A what?
Yeah, that's what it would have been.
So on the next page, he's like, how do you know my real name? And this is what she read in, because she did a mind scan of Corsair in the previous issue that was just kind of left hanging as like a cliffhanger, like, oh, she reacted like, oh my God, I can't believe what I just found out. But we don't find out until now that Corsair is actually Cyclops' dad.
That's like a huge twist.
It is a huge twist, and there's a big story.
Been so awesome back then, and I'm so jealous of them.
Yes. So this gets into the real sort of soap opera aspect of X-Men comics. Was constantly doing this kind of thing. But I am actually your long lost father. Like this character is like, oh, well, I'm secretly so-and-so's father. I'm secretly so-and-so's long lost half sister, which is very much like a soap opera type story device. Isn't it? Very
But I
fun.
just love Phoenix going full Phoenix here.
Yeah. And another cool thing on the final panel of this page is all that John Byrne tech on the bottom. I love the way John Byrne draws machinery and tech. He just had like a very personal, idiosyncratic style about just the way he would draw technology and machines, and I've always loved it. It's something that I should sort of study in more detail, because he definitely has like tricks that he would use, of like, well, it's just a shorthand way of drawing what looks like very believable technology. I've always loved the way he draws that stuff. But yeah, what a great panel, which is essentially just a very kind of abstract idea with the Phoenix rising above the orb, and then I'm assuming this is like the whole city underneath the orb. But it looks great.
That's what I'd see too. Yeah.
And then on the next page, a lot of narration. I'm going to go to my next page of notes. Here we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is you've got all the Phoenix universe. Woo! And the Stargate opens, and it's all back to normal.
Yeah, so it says in the narration on that first panel that the Phoenix Force grows and dwarfs the entire solar system, connecting to all the X-Men's life forces to save the neutron galaxy from collapsing, and thus saves the universe. And then very quickly, it's sort of like dust off the hands, wrap it all up. We're back, and they jump
a little bit less. It's all good.
Yeah, they come back through the Stargate, which they left at the end of issue 104, I want to say, or 105. They went through the Stargate. This is on the rooftop of Jean's apartment building in New York. And so they've just come back. And a voice says, "Greetings, X-Men. I've been expecting you." So you've got that one more, page turn moment.
And we turn the page, and it's like,
and it's Firelord. And so with the issue that I've found, I think the reason that it was only $18.99 for such a key issue is, so we go from this page, which we just looked at, which is the one where Phoenix is, and then you turn the page, and it's the end. There's a page ripped out. Someone ripped out the last page. So when I got to that, I was like, "Oh, what?"
Oh,
and I realized, oh, well, no wonder it was only $18.99.
Yeah, it would have been nice of them to tell you that, though.
Yeah, so I was glad to be, reading it also on the app, so I could actually find out what happened in the end. So we're back with Firelord, who we, first met issues ago. And now he's like all cool with the X-Men because he said, "Oh, yeah, Professor X has explained everything to me. I realize you guys aren't baddies, you're good guys. And so we're cool." Yeah, and then cool. Lilandra comes through the Stargate after them, and it collapses behind her. So she can't go back. She's stranded on Earth now. Mm-hmm. And then Lilandra does some wrap-up kind of exposition. So we really are bringing this whole storyline to an end of sorts, because this is the wrap-up of all the Eric the Red stuff, which involved Polaris and Havoc and Magneto and Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy. Yep. So yeah, it's all kind of come to an end point, and next issue they're going to launch a new storyline. It's interesting that Byrne came on right at the end of this storyline rather than letting Dave Cockrum finish
it. That's
this storyline, and then John Byrne would start with the next issue, which is going to be a more logical starting point, I would think. But, you know, I'm sure...
I was wondering about that.
I'm sure there must have been like business reasons or, you know, personal reasons where Cockrum couldn't continue past a certain issue. And I don't know. It'd be interesting to know the history behind that.
But John does a marvelous job, so I'm not upset too much.
No, it was fantastic. Like, what a way to start. Like, he's not even like warming up, you know, like he's thrown into the deep end here. He gets some really difficult stuff to draw, and there's not a single panel, to my eye, there's not a single panel that looked bad or was like, doesn't know how to draw that character yet. You know, because that was the sort of stuff that we'd kind of talked about on earlier issues. In occasional parts, it's like, oh, you know, such and such a character doesn't look so good here. But in this issue, it's like every page was just like knocking it out of the park. I did think it was funny that on this page, when Lilandra explains the whole thing, she's like, oh, well, you know, technically, like, I should be the ruler now of the Shi'ar, now that Deken is her brother, Deken, who was the evil, traitorous one who sort of usurped her throne early, you know, in the beginning of the story. Her brother usurps her throne. She's forced to go into exile. But now as a result of this kind of, you know, final confrontation, he's now catatonic. She says he's catatonic. So technically I should be the ruler, but since I'm legally still deemed a traitor, because when he was in power, he sort of said like, oh, she's a traitor, she should be killed on sight. She has to wait she says like, I've got to wait on Earth while they iron out the legal wrinkles. I just thought that was funny. It's like, we go from this grand like space opera thing down to like, oh, it's the ins and outs of legality of succession laws on their planet. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then the funniest thing is the dedication.
Go ahead. I'll leave it to you, buddy.
Okay. Okay. You get to the very bottom of the page, bottom panel, and it says, this book is dedicated with respect and admiration to Dave Cockrum, who helped make the dream a reality. And then right below that, it says, I'm not dead. Signed, Dave Cockrum.
That's the first thing I thought. I'm like, oh my God, did he pass away back then? I didn't know he passed away back then. And then I read a little bit under. I went, oh.
No, it definitely reads like an obituary kind
of. It does,
like,
doesn't it?
In memoriam. Thank you, Dave, for everything you contributed. But you know, it is nice that they did acknowledge.
Yeah.
Like, he helped, you know, he designed the characters. He drew the first, you know, like, what are we at? He started with Giant Size X-Men, and then it was 94, and now we're up to 108.
Oh, yeah.
So that's 14 issues and a special.
Oh, nice.
Which means
over 2 years.
Yeah. Well, it's 2 years exactly. It's probably like 2.5 years bi-monthly. So that's quite a span of time that he was involved in helping guide the X-Men to this new height of popularity, which then continued to grow once John Byrne came on. So, which we'll continue to explore in future episodes of this show.
I look forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that wraps up this issue and this episode, but we must first find the band name. Have we got options, or are you just going straight for one?
I've got 3 options for you today,
3?
my friend.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So the first one is on page 9. when they're transported into the inside of the crystal.
Yep.
And it says they're in a silent city. So I thought Silent City, that's kind of a cool band name.
Yeah, it is actually, yeah. They make a good song too.
Right. First single. The name of the first single, Silent City. The next choice is on page 12.
I'm not going to try to find it.
Yeah, don't try and find it. I'll try and find it to see exactly where I got it from.
Yeah.
I can't find it. But anyway, the phrase was darksome majesty.
Oh.
So
I don't even remember
darksome, which is Darksome, darksome majesty. I thought that was an interesting phrase, so I wrote that down as a possible band name. But my favorite one, which I personally, this is my number one choice. Is The Legal Wrinkles from page 17.
I'm going for that one too. That's awesome. Because that made me laugh when I read that.
Yes.
So Legal Wrinkles? What?
Yeah.
We've just saved the whole universe, but I just gotta wait for some legal wrinkles.
Yep. So that's this issue's band name, The Legal Wrinkles.
The Legal Wrinkles. I like it. So that's it. That's it for the week.
That's it.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you disagreed or agreed or somewhere in the middle, you just want to write a comment. Just write a comment below in the comment section.
Yep.
I guess that's
we
where
love
you write
comments.
And we'll try to answer them. Remember to subscribe. And I don't know if you can see that. That says like. You probably can't see it. That says share. Don't forget to share. Let other people know about this. Let other people share the joy of exploring these older X-Men. And issue by issue, it's a lot of fun. So, I answer the Uncanny Conversations. Yes, like this one. Do we want to have people subscribe to this, not just the channel, to this show?
Yep.
And so next week we do issue 109. That'll be interesting. Bit of a off a flight. And until then, I can't read my own notes, so this has been embarrassing. I'm Siz, and you can find me online at comex.net.au. That's comics without an I. There is no I in comics. And Matt, where can we find you and your wonderful creations?
You can find me at steamrollerman.com. I'll soon have an online store.
That's so awesome.
Which will sell physical issues. I've got a physical issue of Steamroller Man #1. So, those will be on sale. Hopefully, by the time this one drops, it will be up and running. So,
sweet.
Steamrollerman.com, please. Thank you.
Yeah, go there. So, until next week, have a great time. Love the X-Men. See you next week. Bye all. Bye, Matt.
See you, everybody. See you, Siz. See you next time.